but our internal commitment was between 7 and 10 days. So we didn't tell the government 7 to 10 days, but we said 15. We actually stepped above and beyond what they asked for. And when that hit, and they could look at our contract and know that we were responsive and able to get these computers out, that's what drove all the big sales. Now, again, horrible circumstances, but you never know what's going to happen in the government, as West Wing shows, as this weekend shows. So my point is that you think about really being prepared, and the way you need to think about this is, okay, the government sends me a task order, that means a delivery of people, or the government sends me a delivery order, delivery of product. Tomorrow morning, we win the contract today, tomorrow morning they send it. What do we do? And think about that from a supply chain logistics perspective. What needs to happen? You know, somebody here needs to be reviewing that. When I say somebody, who do I mean? That means I need personnel in. And some of the things we're just going to talk about now. It's a very detailed process, but you need to have your act together, because even though it's not in the best government interest to say, well, we gave you 3 days to get started and we're going to start termination proceedings because you don't have your act together, they could, right? Because if they have a national crisis, they need to get what they need now.
Is there not an expedited service other than FedBizOps they could use in that scenario?
Pretty much all regulations are out the window in situations like that. So if they know that you provide training service, they can call you and say, we need you right now. And you know, it's it's as simple as that. You don't have to be on schedule, you don't have to have a contract, whatever they need. In fact, when you sign up for GSA, they ask you if you're interested in providing disaster
Okay, so they would look at a GSA schedule, like for a first-hand token. If nothing's able there, then they'd probably make a quick post.
They can do whatever they want. So, you know, and this is a situation where if I'm a contracting officer and I know you do this, I don't worry about GSA, I call you up. You know, because, again, the government's all about meeting the mission.
Right.
And when the mission goes from the normal run-of-the-mill mission to this is a crisis, we got to get it done now, everything's off and running. So the government can be lenient for a few days, but don't push it. Okay, so here's the kind of things you should think about during planning. So the point in the process that we're in is we've submitted the proposal, we've gone through all those after submission activities, whatever ones they choose to have, and now we're waiting for award. This is when we start thinking about account planning, or contract planning. First one, identify people. Second one, prepare for deliverables. We'll go through each of these in detail. Third, establish processes, because you don't want everybody sort of going off half-hole. Understand the data requirements. As we learned yesterday so eloquently from Dean, preparing for cybersecurity, right? Because now, if the contract requires the cybersecurity measurements, you need to make sure they're in place. Establish your subcontractor relationships, because not only do you have to have your own ship in order, you got to make sure your outreach to these other organizations are solid. And then establish your marketing channels. So let's talk about this. So if you're doing any kind of services contract or anything that you need labor for, which is everything we do, you figure out and identify any internal, or free up any internal personnel. So like at EDS, when we won a brand new contract, we very seldom had people on the bench that were just kind of waiting there for work. So we actually had to go off into contracts and find people and pick them off, and we had to backfill them on their existing contracts so that we didn't lose the customer satisfaction on those existing contracts, but yet we needed some very key personnel to get this contract started. Do you have a question? Okay. You also, sometimes people have to relocate. So, you know, either they're doing that on their own nickel, or they're doing it on your nickel. Sometimes you actually have to hire people through external sources. So you have subcontractors, and when you wrote up your subcontracts, you identified any position that comes in with these requirements, that's going to go to your company. And any ones that come in with these requirements is going to go to your company, and I'm going to take these other ones. Or maybe this type of position can be filled by multiple ones of you, we'll just see who's got people available. So you need to sort of beat the bushes to get your organization chart in place of who's going to do all this work. So that's the, and you may not have people available to you, and you may have to start doing direct hires. So that's when you talk about contingency hires. If we win this contract, we'll offer you a job. Next, you have to prepare for deliverables. So a deliverable is anything you physically turn over to the government. It could be a report, it could be your end product, whatever it is that you're turning over to the government. The contents of the deliverable, particularly when we're talking about reports, can be one of three ways. The government in their RFP can say, you have to provide a status report. And that status report needs to include this, 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 and this. And that's the format you use. Or they could say, the DoD has, remember all those military standards and specifications? Another thing that happened in that era was something called CDRLs, Contract Data Requirements List. So think of that as a template, and then each of the items in that template, like how to fill it out, is called a DID, Data Item Description. So think about when you fill out any form for the government, like a passport. You've got a passport, you have all the blanks on this, and normally you can fill it out pretty easily, you don't have to look at the backside. The backside tells you you're supposed to use your legally binding name, you're supposed to use your exact date of birth, all the requirements. So that would be, the front would be the CDRL, and the back would be the DID. So they may have that. They may still be using that. Or they could say, hey, you need to do a status report, it's up to you what to put in. So maybe you have to send over a draft to make sure they approve it. So those are the three different kind of formats they can require for deliverables. You also have to put a process in place to get this deliverable done. So what are the steps in that process? First, you need to understand, for this deliverable, what data do I need to have? What are the actual data fields that I need to find? Then, what information do I put in those data fields? So if it's asking me how many hours were worked this month on a cost reimbursable contract, I need to find something that is tied to the time cards reporting to know that Sean put in 150 hours on this project this month. And I need to be able to have the supporting documentation of all the time cards he filled out to show me that that's the case. So basically for every data item, I have to kind of track back to find the real information and how I'm going to populate it. Determine how to get the information, gather it, now you actually go and gather it, and then you write the deliverable, whatever writing means. Is it a computer-generated report? Hopefully, because that's going to make it easiest. Is it something that requires us to give a status, and we want to see how we're phrasing status on this contract? Is it something that is requiring a new person, and we have to submit a resume? There's lots of different deliverables on this, so whatever the deliverable calls for. Then you have to conduct quality control on the deliverable, because these deliverables are going to get accepted or rejected. So you need to make sure they're clean from your side before they go over to the government side. And you submit it over to the government. The government may say, we need you to revise it, we need you to fix this piece, we need you to do something different, so you have your revision time. And then after you get the revisions done, it's now accepted by the government. You ask for acceptance from the government. If they agree that all the changes have been made, they sign off on it, and that's what generates your ability to invoice for it. So that's the cycle for each deliverable. And sometimes these contracts have lots of deliverables, so you really have, this is not a 2-second kind of process. You really need to sort of look at your deliverables in total. And I'm talking about deliverables for like $500 million contracts, not, you know. So commercial items contract would be very little, if that. Develop your internal processes. So now you need to think about what you did to start a brand new company. That's pretty much what you're doing here. You've got to figure out how you're going to handle purchasing, how you're going to handle invoicing. Now, you may already have those functions in place, but you need to make sure those people are now trained in your government contract, because it's going to be different, right? For example, they can't just purchase from the people they've already purchased. If you've said, here's our CPSR file, we've selected this vendor, you need to make sure you add them in. So there may be changes that you have to make to your existing system to accommodate this. You're going to have to do management reporting, because your profit margin in government contracting, particularly when we're doing this full negotiated procurement, is usually like 10% or less. So that's very tight margins that you have to manage within to make sure you don't overspend and lose a lot of money. So you want to make sure that you do management reporting. You have to do customer reporting. You know, your customer is going to want to know hey, I issued you this delivery order, what's the status of it? Just like FedEx will track that, or Amazon. You have to be able to provide status to your government, customer. Vendor management, how are you going to interface with your vendors' systems? You know, Walmart tries to have an electronic purchasing all the way through. So things on Walmart system talks to their supplier systems, and you know, a lot of these ordering and purchasing and invoicing and payment is all done between systems where you don't have a lot of human intervention because of the mass quantities that they buy. You have to manage the prime contract. So if you choose to make a change to the contract, you have to go through a modification process. So that has to be figured out. You also, if you make a change at the prime contract level, you may have to make changes to subcontracts. So how are you going to make those changes to the subcontract levels? And then all these people that are doing all these things, you got to get them trained in how they're doing the business. Other internal processes, quality control. Remember I told you all these deliverables. With products, you actually have to do quality control on your products. You have to worry about cybersecurity. I told that yesterday. Customer delivery order. When a customer sends over a delivery order, they can only order what's on the contract baseline. So if I have this bottle of water on the contract baseline, they can order this. But if they send over an order for a 24 ounce as opposed to a 16.9 ounce, I can't deliver. So I have to call the contracting officer up and say, you asked for a 24 ounce bottle of water, it's not on the contract, I can't deliver that. So the government makes mistakes too, and they order things that they can't order. Now, what can we do to fix that? If you would like a 24 ounce bottle of water, we'll do a contract modification, add that product at 24 ounces onto the contract, then you can buy from us to do that. Career development for your people, how are you going we'll get into this more next week or next time, but you know, if I come in as a systems engineer 1, and I'm working on this government contract, and I'm going gangbusters, and the customer loves me, and I'm just working and working and working. At some point, I'm going to ask for a salary increase. And my boss is going to say to me, Mary Ann, I have 3 things to worry about. I have to worry about you as the employee, I have to worry about the customer, and I have to worry about the stockholders. So you want a raise. What's going to happen is when I ask for a raise, the job category that I'm in for a level 1 only goes up to this point. So I have a choice to make. If the customer, there's also a level 2 and a level 3 on this contract. If the customer has a need for a level 2 person, I could take on the responsibilities of what I have to do to qualify as a level 2. Maybe I have to have a master's degree. Maybe I have to have so many years of experience. Maybe I have to understand these systems. If I can get whatever I need to get to a level 2, and the customer has a need for a level 2, my boss can take me from a level 1, make sure I have all the requirements, put me into a level 2, and now I've got salary growth potential, right? So typically you start off with salary growth like at the low end and you move towards the high end. Once you max out there, you have to jump up to the next level, otherwise I'm not going to get the salary increases that I want, so I'm not going to be happy. When you think about the customer says, okay, let's say the customer does have a level 2, and they like me, and they say, okay, fine, we'll go with that. Now I'm a level 2 person, and they bring in somebody else to backfill the level 1 work. Or they say, wait a minute, I only have money funded for a level 1 person, and I like Mary Ann, and I want to keep Mary Ann. And my boss says, no, you can't keep Mary Ann because she wants a salary increase, and now she's priced out of that position. And the government says, well, wait a minute, I'm not happy because I finally got Mary Ann to the point where I wanted her, right? I've trained her, I've done everything I needed to do to get her to be fully productive. And now you're going to kick her out, you're going to bring Don in, and I got to start all over again? That's, they're not happy about that. So they've got to balance this customer satisfaction going on over here. about the stockholders, if I decide to leave the company because I can't get a salary increase, and lots of people end up doing that across all the different contracts, now all of a sudden, we're not making as much money for the company as we said we were going to. So they've always got this sort of triad that they're trying to keep balanced when it comes to this stuff. Other things you need process for, proposal development, if you have task order proposals to do, any kind of modifications to the contract, we're going to talk about all this next time. And a time card process, how's that going to run? Any kind of travel expense, the government has regulations around travel expense, you have to pay attention to. You also, for every sub that you have, you need to figure out who your connect points are. So who does your subcontract manager deal with in their subcontractor legal or contracts organization? Who does your technical person deal with if there's a technical issue with the sub? Who does your business manager deal with the business issue, if there's any business issue? Purchasing, marketing, delivery, overall program direction. You have to make sure that you have those counterpoints in each of your subcontract organizations to make them more effective. And then finally, marketing channels. So if you have a firm fixed price contract, you don't need to worry about marketing, right? The only thing you're marketing is maybe this solution to other government agencies. But if you have a multiple award schedule contract or a GSA schedule or a cost reimbursable, you need to put together sort of marketing channels to grow your business within that customer. So, and to other customers. So you look at things like trade shows, trade magazines, conference speaker, advertising, product demonstrations, catalogs, brochures, all ways to help so you've sold this product line to this customer. What you're trying to do is figure out other product lines that you have that you can sell and grow your customer
Like
base.
upselling and cross-selling.
Right. Yeah. Vertical or horizontal. Okay? That's it. Thanks, everybody. Any questions before we close? You guys still like it up there?
The food is already set up in the other end.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll see you back.
And you put the other modules up from yesterday, the day before, on
You will have everything by the time I come back. Otherwise, again, I'm kicking you out of the class. Can I get all the stuff from you? The hard drive of videos?
I am working on that right now.
Okay.
So I'll have everything except for the ones for today.
Okay.
That should